crashes, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts with host David Lamb and the attorneys of Hollis, Wright.
Good evening and welcome into the attorneys. Thank you for joining us tonight for the next half hour. I'm going to be talking about medication errors and just a scary subject matter, but a really important informational kind of educational conversation we're going to have tonight. So if you know someone who this subject matter may be particularly interesting to them, you may just want to give them a call and give them a heads up that that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, because I don't recall us doing this show. Maybe we have done this show, but kind of a little different show tonight. But would love to have you be a part of the conversation. Let's get some of the ground rules out of the way. You'll see at the bottom of the screen where you can join our conversation, and would love to have you do so. But the number, if you want to take advantage of this opportunity to speak with the attorneys that Hollis Wright make available each and every Sunday night, easy ways for you to do so. 844-LAW-TALK, of course, that number is the number to know all the time, anytime. 844-LAW-TALK is how you can get in touch with the law firm of Hollis Wright. Specifically, if you're in the Birmingham area, you can give them a call at 205-324-3600, 205-324-3600, or you can even text if you'd rather not talk to someone and you're just more of a texter. That number, 205-670-1949. Plenty of ways for you to get in touch with the attorneys from Hollis Wright who are standing by live to speak with you. That free, all fair, confidential conversation. Now, let's get into what we're talking about tonight. John Spade, an attorney with Hollis Wright here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, David?
You and the family are okay?
We're doing good. Everybody's safe and healthy. Right. And I'm happy to be on here this evening talking with you. I know it's been a little while since we've gotten to do a show one-on-one, so right. I'm excited about that. How's your family doing?
Everybody, thank the Lord, everybody's good.
Yeah, good.
We're hanging in there. Kind of different day that we're in. Life looks much different than it did this time last year. Let me just tell you that.
Absolutely, and it's constantly kind of evolving. We just, you got to kind of roll with the punches the best you can and try to be as flexible as you can. It's definitely, taking a toll, I think, on everybody.
Yeah. All right, but Hollis Wright doing different business, a little different, but you guys still hard at it, still taking care of people and taking in cases and all that. How long have you now been with the firm? Has it been 5 years?
I think it's a little over 5. I think it'll be 6. Towards the end of this year. Yeah, it'll be 6 years this year.
Okay, and what are your areas that you really focus on at the firm?
I do, of course, personal injury, right. which is the only thing Hollis Wright does. But I do a lot of, car accident, trucking accident, wrongful death, premises liability. Have really gotten into what we're talking about tonight, which is medication prescription errors, which is kind of a subset of medical malpractice. I don't do a ton of medical malpractice, but this would be considered a medical malpractice cause of action. Those are kind of, and then some construction defect cases and some product liability cases, not a whole lot of that, but kind of, a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah. All right, so a medical error, this is just, even the subject matter kind of shakes me up, because you put so much confidence, in that being right? You follow the directions, but what if the directions are for the wrong medicine? How common is this?
It's not extremely common. We're talking about kind of a subset of cases, but it does happen.
Right.
And at the outset, I just want to say, and express to the viewers that we have the utmost confidence in our healthcare providers. I mean, they're on the front lines, they're doing the work, in very difficult conditions. And what we see in the medication error cases that we handle, it really kind of falls into, most times, not every time, either the prescribing physician might make an error when sending a prescription to the pharmacy to be filled, or the pharmacist that receives the prescription might get the correct prescription and then fill, the wrong medication, the wrong dosage. And really, when you're talking about the prescription errors, there was a study that came out, I think the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy came out with a study that 80% of wrongful medication and medication errors are due to either the wrong dosage or the wrong type. So people either getting the complete wrong, medication that they were prescribed, or they got the correct medication but at the wrong dosage.
Right.
We've got a case that we're handling right now where everybody's heard of fentanyl. It's a very, can be a very powerful drug when used correctly. But because it's so powerful, you need to make sure you have the dosage right. And we've got a case right now that we're handling where an individual received 3 times what she was prescribed. And so that stuff does happen, but it usually falls into one of those categories, dosage or just the wrong medication in general. I
mean, you're right. Birmingham has some incredible, the medical community in Birmingham is just fantastic.
Phenomenal.
But, we are talking about humans, both ends. Medical professionals often a very stressful environment, long days, and also on the prescription side, sometimes those, the amount of prescriptions that some pharmacies are filling daily is just crazy.
It is, and that's a very interesting point. Something that I want to highlight. These cases, all the cases that I've ever handled, at least, are not dealing with a situation where a pharmacist or a doctor is intentionally doing something wrong. This is, negligence kind of at its finest, and human error, and accidents do happen. And you're absolutely right. Pharmacists are prescribing or are filling, hundreds of prescriptions a day, and mistakes do happen. Now, there should be, stop gaps and checks in place to make sure that the person who's filling it, isn't the same person that it's going out the door with, and they're, kind of left hand knows what the right hand is doing.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, the amount of, family practitioner, the amount of individuals they see on a daily basis and the prescriptions that they write, errors do happen. And so what I want to try to kind of press upon the viewers today is you need to be aware of this. And you kind of have an active role as well in making sure you're getting the right prescription. Ask the questions, follow up with the pharmacist, follow up with your treating physician. You kind of hear that old adage, if you see something, say something.
Right.
If you think that maybe you got the wrong medication, then ask the pharmacist or call your primary care physician and ask those questions, because what we see is if you do get the wrong prescription or the wrong dosage, the wrong medication, or the wrong dosage, the injury and the effects from that can be pretty devastating and life-threatening as well.
Okay. All right. Interesting stuff. We're going to step aside our first break of the evening. As we do so, a reminder, if you are a person who's anywhere on social media, Hollis Wright is there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Find them in all of those places, and probably wherever you are, they are there as well. So just search the term Hollis Wright, a great educational, informational resource for you. We are stepping aside our first break of the evening. Stay tuned. We're coming right back.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis Wright, a personal injury law firm, and thank you for watching The Attorneys. We hope you, a friend, or a loved one never needs legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of the show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free and off air. So if you have questions specific to the show or related to other accident or injury topics, call, email, or text us. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, or go to hollis-wright.com and click on the Contact Us button. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and watching The Attorneys.
The Attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis Wright, are here to serve you.
When we started the show 8 years ago, my hope was we would be able to do what we do best, which is to help people answer real-world legal-related issues they have in their life.
People oftentimes are confronting various legal issues and problems in their lives that range across the gamut of legal practice areas. Bankruptcy, criminal law, family law, just to name a few. And to be able to have a 30-minute platform or format to where we can just cover various legal topics once a week, that's obviously the primary focus of the show.
That we would be able to use the resources of the many lawyers we have at this law firm to create a plan that had a lasting impact that also gave back to the community at the same time. And I think we've done just that with the attorneys.
Welcome back into the attorneys talking about prescription and medication errors tonight on the show. Would love to have you join the conversation. That information at the bottom of your screen if you want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak with an attorney from Hollis, Wright, who's standing by live to speak with you. The ways to do so, many of them. You can call 844-LAW-TALK, always the number to know. In the Birmingham area, 205-324-3600, or you can text, for you texters who are afraid of human contact, 205-670-1949, 205-670-1949 again for you texters. All right, here with John Spade, talking about medication errors. A question we've got, what should I watch out for if I have a prescription for my child?
Well, there are some differences. Medication strength will affect a grown adult different than a child. They'll be able to metabolize the drug differently. And a lot of times we see that when you're prescribing to a child, it might be a medication that if an adult were to take it, it'd be in a pill form. Versus if a child is prescribed the same medication, they have to compound it and do a liquid form, and sometimes even mix it to kind of lower the strength of the medication.
Right.
So again, it kind of gets back to that. Make sure you know what the side effects are. Be sure to be, when you give the first dosage to your child, the first dose, be on the lookout for those types of side effects, and if they start, exhibiting those side effects, then you need to get them to a doctor quickly. Okay, so it kind of goes back to ask the questions, know what's being prescribed, know what the side effects are, and have as much communication with your doctor as possible. One term that's thrown out a lot, and some people, it's the word's contraindication. Okay,
that's a big word.
And it's something in the in the medical community. What it means is that any symptom or medical condition that might be a reason for a person to not receive a particular treatment or procedure because it's harmful to that person, that's what a contraindication is.
All right.
And that kind of goes into making sure that you're communicating with your doctor, telling them if you have any sort of allergies, any other medical conditions. While it might seem kind of superfluous to what you're going in for, say your chest hurts, but you also have diabetes, that might contraindicate a certain medication because one of them that kind of comes to mind as far as a medication that does that is if you have like a blood clotting disorder, you might not be a candidate to get aspirin because it can cause you to bleed and have excess bleeding. So that would be the excess bleeding would be a contraindication to not take and prescribe the aspirin. So it's all about being able to explain to the doctor everything, knowing what the medication that you're being prescribed, what the side effects are, and how it can maybe have an impact on other symptoms that you might not even think are related at the time.
Okay. So do medication errors occur at hospitals and nursing homes, or is it mostly in these doc-in-the-box kind of situations?
It's probably primarily where a primary care physician or your treating physician outside of a hospital setting is prescribing something like we were talking about kind of at the beginning, but it certainly does happen as well in hospitals and nursing homes, because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is there's human factors involved here.
Right.
And sometimes, you might, the doctor, your physician in the hospital, if you're hospitalized, might prescribe X and you end up getting Y. And again, it goes back to if you're feeling, off or odd or unwell, say something. Because the good thing about if you're in a hospital nursing home setting is they can react a whole lot quicker to kind of curb and treat those side effects if you bring them to light. Mm-hmm. So that it certainly does happen in a hospital setting, just because you've got that human factor element, and it's mistakes do happen.
How do you advise people? In the South, we are so polite, to a fault. But the folks who, they don't want to cause problems, and they know the doctor is busy, and I don't want to be a nag, right? While they're having side effects and things, and they're not mentioning it. They're not bringing to the doctor's attention that, okay, this something weird's happening here. How do you advise those folks that, your doctor needs that feedback?
Right. Well, and you got to think of, what's at risk. You're talking about your own, personal health, your own safety, and the doctor's there to help you. It's a lot of times, I get calls from viewers that say, I'm so happy I'll have this outlet because it provides, me. I'm scared to pick up the phone and just call a random attorney. Because I don't want to take up your time. You've got other things that you're doing. We're here to help,
right?
And want to create that outlet. And your treating physician wants to help. I mean, they take an oath, the Hippocratic Oath, and they want to do good. They want to help you, but they can only do that if they have the information to make an informed and differential diagnosis. So it can be scary. It can be a little bit off-putting, but in the grand scheme of things, think about if you don't say something, the adverse effects that could happen can be grave.
Yeah. So I personally, I have allergies and allergic reactions and weird reactions to things that other folks don't. Is this important? Why is it important for my doctors to know that? What impact does it have? What effect does it have?
Well, if you're allergic to a drug, certainly you shouldn't be prescribed that drug unless the benefits way outweigh any potential risk.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to letting the doctor know, even though it might not be something that's pertaining to that particular reason for why you went into the hospital or to the doctor that day, giving the doctor all of the information. They've gone through the schooling, they know how to give you a diagnosis, but they need all of the relevant information to do that. And allergies are certainly one of the kind of constellation of information that they're relying upon.
Mm-hmm. Is it odd for allergies, reactions to drugs and medications to change? And I ask this because recently I always get a sinus infection in spring. It's happened for years. I'm always prescribed the same thing. I now have some kind of reaction to that medication that I've been taking for 10 years. Is that weird or rare for the body to change in that way?
No, and your body's always constantly changing. I saw something a couple weeks ago that every 7 years you're made up of kind of different molecules and atoms, and you're constantly growing.
Right.
And so your allergies can change over time with that, and you can kind of become desensitized to certain things. I know, like in the past, 5 to 10 years or so, probably closer to 5, gluten allergies have become more of a prevalent thing in society.
Yes.
And maybe, I think some of that is due to kind of the awareness of the adverse effects of gluten, but also, it could be that people are now just kind of focusing in on what can happen and
Paying
removing
attention.
that and seeing how that can affect people. But your allergies can and do change over time.
Yeah. All right, we're stepping aside. Our final break of the evening. If you want to speak with those attorneys from Hollis, Wright, you got just a few minutes to do so. Stay tuned. More of the attorneys coming right up.
I'm Josh Wright with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. In court, attorneys are not allowed to tell juries certain things. For example, We cannot talk about a defendant's net worth, meaning the defendant's ability, resources, or insurance to pay a verdict. In this week's Legal 4-in-1, we're answering the question, why can't lawyers talk about a defendant's net worth to a jury? Now, Rule 403 of the Alabama Rules of Evidence states, in part, relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. Long-standing Alabama cases have held that the net worth of a defendant falls under this catch-all rule and is to be excluded. The reasoning behind the rule is that if a jury knows a defendant is wealthy, then the jury might award more money to the plaintiff. And this goes one step further. If an attorney makes any remarks that suggest the defendant is responsible because he is wealthy or rich and the plaintiff is poor, that can be grounds for a new trial. If you're ever on a jury, the reality in our state is this. In almost every lawsuit that goes to trial, the attorneys representing both the plaintiff and the defendant have already looked at whether there's sufficient insurance coverage or assets to satisfy a verdict. Most likely, the parties would not pursue a civil lawsuit if damages could not be paid after a jury returns a verdict. So even though lawyers cannot mention the net worth of a defendant during trial, there likely are resources available to pay a verdict in court. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. And remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you. And as always, thanks for watching The Attorneys right here on WVTN 13.
Welcome back in to The Attorneys. About 6 minutes remaining. Attorneys from Hollis Wright standing by to speak with you. The numbers to know: 844-LAW-TALK. Locally in the Birmingham area, it's 205-324-3600 or text 205-670-1949. Here with John Spade from Hollis Wright, talking about the prescription that I've had forever that now had a different effect on me this time. I guess that kind of proves why it's important to know those side effects, because the adverse reaction I was having, my wife looked up the side effects, and that was one of them. That's, I guess, the value of knowing those side effects?
Absolutely. And it kind of goes back to information. Had you gone and presented for, that side effect to the emergency room or back to your doctor or whatever, you might have received a different diagnosis completely unrelated with that medication side effect and had to undergo additional medical treatment that really wasn't necessary because the cause of that side effect was due to the drug. And also knowing those side effects, if you are experiencing them, and a lot of times these can be very devastating, side effects and can come on quickly and take, a long time, or it can be permanent. Knowing what the side effects might be, and then if you start to experiencing them, being able to get to a hospital or a medical provider quickly can mean the difference in a couple days or weeks of discomfort and years. Yeah. So it's very important to kind of, and I understand that as a society there's tons of information out there and everything, but Google's not a bad research tool every once in a while just to pull up those types of things. But also talk to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist. Yeah. They've gone to school, they know what they're doing. Yeah.
All right. What if I'm already on other medications? Is that important, and if so, why?
It absolutely is important. We were talking about kind of the contraindications earlier. Also, different drugs can have different effects on each other. Some can cause others to be less effective as a treatment when you're taking them together.
So how they interact with each other,
That's right. How they interact with the body is very important. And also, sometimes, and we've dealt with this here recently, is you might have your primary care physician who you've been going to for 15 years, knows all your medication, has your full medication history. They know what you've been taking, what you're on, what you are allergic to, all that sort of stuff. But you might go to, like an urgent care because you can't get into your primary care doctor. And the urgent care doesn't have all that information or has incomplete information, and they might prescribed to a different pharmacy than you usually go to, and they don't have a record of all that. So it's very important for the right hand to know what the left hand is doing and to have all the information, because those medications, when you take them by themselves, they might not be a problem, but when you mix and take them together, they can have some serious effects on your body and your health.
Right. A question we've got here is about the labels and the warnings. This one, the question here, not understanding the label or the warnings, what they should do. Sometimes they can't, like you're saying, you can read it and you feel dumber after reading all that, or just more confused. So what should you do if you don't understand what the labels and the warnings are saying?
Well, you can do some basic kind of, Google research if you want to. You can also, call your doctor. Talk to the pharmacist when you pick up the medication. I mean, they're right there at the drive-through window or at the counter.
Yeah.
They've gone to school to be able to understand how these drugs interact in your body and how they interact with other drugs. And they're a great resource and tool to rely upon. And I would just kind of, echo some of those. If it says don't take this with alcohol, don't take it with alcohol, because it can cause serious liver damage if you do. If they say take it with food, take it with food, because it changes the way it metabolizes in your body. And if if there's a warning to not take the medication and operate heavy machinery, drive a vehicle, don't do it, because you could find yourself in a world of hurt if you're drowsy, if you're unable to pay attention, and you're driving down the highway. So listen to those warnings, and if you don't understand something, say something, ask a question, because there's people, be it your pharmacist, your doctor, or a world of networks out there on the internet that can help answer those questions, help walk you through those times.
I do believe knowledge is power, and I'm just a curious, nosy kind of guy. So I'm always the guy that does consult with the pharmacist. But there's a reason, I guess, why there is like almost a window where where you can consult with the pharmacist. You need to use that, I guess.
Absolutely. If the pharmacist asks you, do you want a consultation, take them up on it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have any questions about anything, then that's fine. But if you have the questions, they've got the resources there available, use it. And that's somebody who's going to be more likely than not is more familiar with your overall condition too.
Less than a minute remaining, but a final thought from you for our viewers?
I think kind of what we've echoed throughout this whole thing is if you see something, say something. If something is out of the ordinary, ask the question. Be it your pharmacist, be it your doctor. Be vigilant and know the side effects and react to them as quickly as you can, because they can be very, very devastating and dire if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. John, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's good that you and the family are well, and thanks for being with us here tonight. Appreciate John being with us. Also appreciate you being with us as well. We do not take you for granted, and we're thankful each and every time that you join us right here on The Attorneys. That's going to wrap it up for this show, but we'll look for you next week. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll look for you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.